is very critical to the establishment, growth and sustainability of SMEs in Nigeria, as well as growth of the nation's economy. To achieve this, she disclosed that the Institute will henceforth work more closely and effectively with the National Association of Small and Medium Enterprises in all areas of operations.
If our technologies are not out there for commercialization, there is need to launch out our technologies to make them more available to the teeming population.
On his part, Chairman NASME Lagos Branch, Jemi Alade, and other speakers applauded Firo's kind gesture, stressing that signing of the MOU will help tackle and overcome the several challenges encountered by NASME over the years.
The government has how does small businesses access this funding that has been provided by government? Signing of MOU, for example, with Firo will assist us.
We can generate a lot of employment through agro-processing and encouragement for increasing agricultural production.
Both parties agree that with industrialization and effectiveness of SMEs in Nigeria. Annie Daniels, NTA News.
This is the NTA2 News at 7. When we return, we'll take a look at how the economy is faring. Stay with us.
StarTime Solar Phone now arriving. Artistically designed for comfort, its ergonomic curves offering the perfect touch in your hands. It's extremely slim at only 8mm. Use the 13-megapixel camera, touch screen. StarTime Solar 5 phone. Affordability.
You don't do. I don't tire for all the things where you yarn.
You not done the right.
You the yarn no pattern. Sure you think say na only you feel booga. I go show you.
This matter don't pass, be careful.
You dey show yourself all these years, I just dey look you. This time, you go know the kind of person we are.
No small. Na him you dey try kill, abi?
Na to kill, scatter and destroy my pearls always dey your agenda, abi? Oh, but you know fit o, not this time.
I don't set my own agenda.
I know how where your agenda go fit pass my agenda.
Because my agenda strong pass your agenda.
For this election, the agenda now.
It's our future.
No violence.
Just vote.
Welcome back. We apologize for that hitch. And now to business. With about 5 weeks to the general elections in the country, political parties are concluding a spending by politicians on the economy.
Election in Nigeria, like elsewhere in the world, is often characterized by lots of activities aimed at soliciting votes of the electorate. During campaigns, politicians commit large sum of money to rallies, printing of posters, banners, and the production of jingles.
These rallies cost a lot of money to organize. You see at each rally, you see hundreds of thousands of people are attending the rally. There are logistic costs of bringing them to those locations. There are costs of feeding them. There are costs of, a lot of that time they come in uniform. There are costs of getting those uniforms in place. So the logistic cost of moving people around, and you see that in a lot of states where you see a large crowd of millions of people, and this is costing a lot of money.
Over the years, the electioneering process has become very expensive. Apart from fundraising events, some of these public office seekers dispose of their private properties to achieve their political ambition.
It's just no-brainer that those who are paying you to vote for them, you have lost your moral rights or spend so much money to win electoral positions. It's just almost natural that a lot of them will want to recoup that from the Commonwealth. But
so will add to the economy from where they will take this?
You see, basically, and that's why you're not seeing development that's commensurate with the wealth of the society. If you have a situation where to those who have donated so much so that those people can recover their electoral process, so what happens in terms of value for money, of budgeted expenses, we as a community or as people do not get appropriate value for the money that is spent from our commonwealth, from our national treasury, because those monies, those expenses are padded to compensate those political posts.
This huge expenditure by politicians, economic watchers say, creates so much liquidity in the system.
As you spend this money, you're pumping in so much liquidity into the system. And so the first impact it has is that it has inflationary impacts. And so inflation, addition of inflation is goods and services, available liquidity. So you increase liquidity so that those who cannot pass it on. So you are somebody who's earning salary, then prices increase, you go to the market, you find that it's increased. It makes you poorer. Okay, so it's a big issue. And then you find that also, if you look at the other side of it, central bank has issues, they have challenges. That most of this expenditure, because it's so massive, this money is being spent, they spend it in hard currency, can't carry it in naira, so they put it in dollars. And so to the extent that means the demand for dollar increases.
However, media organizations in the country are said to be the greatest beneficiaries of such spendings by politicians.
As we move on, I must be able of tracking your expenditure. It's very easy to, for instance, find out how much you spend on your NTA for adverts. You come to you for adverts. I think that really the electronic and print expenditure you can easily calculate. Yes, you can count number of pages of newspaper that people have. It's massive, and the rate. The rate is talking about almost £500,000 a page. And so it's something that, if somebody wants to regulate, it's not something that is too difficult to do.
Economic analysts believe that the electorate must ensure that their choice of leader quality is one sure way of achieving Nigeria's socio-economic prosperity.
Nigerians and prospective investors in the country have been advised not to panic over recent developments in the economy, occasioned by the dwindling price of oil at the global market. Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, who gave this advice in Lagos, stressed that Nigeria's economy is resilient.
The governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, who was received by council members of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, told stockbrokers that government is doing a lot to engender stability in the system. Despite the continued depreciation of the naira and depletion of the reserve, Mr. Godwin Emefiele explained that measures are being taken by government to develop non-oil sector, particularly the manufacturing sector.
Showing your confidence in Nigeria to diversify the structure of the Nigerian economy, and I believe that by the special grace of God, in due time, we will begin to reap the benefits of these efforts.
The stockbrokers and other stakeholders who spoke through the doyen of the market assured the governor of their support to return the nation on the path of sustainable growth. Earlier, the Bankers Committee met to examine. It also agreed that there will be no change in domiciliary account operations, adding that only genuine demands for foreign exchange will be met by the CBN. In Lagos, Amechi Pius, NTA News.
Still on the implication of large spending by politicians before and after elections, I have with me in the studio a financial analyst, Mr. Johnson Chukwu. He will be talking to us on the implication of this on this.
Well, basically what you see is that during the election period, politicians go into overdrive.
Okay.
You find out that politicians actually spend their life savings to win elections. We've seen a lot of resources being moved around. So much resources going into adverts, going into organizing rallies, donating gifts to people. People are buying rice, buying all sorts of people in their electioneering campaigns.
Okay. So is there a hint to the amount of politician or party can spend during elections?
Yes. If you look at the Nigerian Electoral Act, there are limits to the amount of contribution an individual or corporate organization can make to election for election purposes. Okay. But whatever those things are being adhered to is another thing entirely. Because whatever is not money, and I think that's where the challenge is, though the law is clear on how much people should spend, I mean, individuals should contribute, not necessarily have to spend, because it depends on how wide your contributors are, you can spend more. But the basic thing is that I'm not sure anybody anywhere in the country is monitoring how much each individual who is contributing to a political campaign in the neighborhood. I don't think we have anybody people can pay up to contribute up to 5 million. There's something in the neighborhood of maybe 500,000 or so. It's not a very material amount,
okay,
given the current context of events.
All right.
but I'm not exactly sure of that figure. I can't remember exactly what the figure is, but the fact is that there's a law that stipulates you cannot contribute more than a specific amount.
All right.
Ideally, maybe the regulation is still within INEC, but INEC does not have the capacity to regulate that. So it's going to come up with issues of civil society, and if people come out and petition INEC or go to court to enforce or to compel the court to probe how much each party got from each of the law enforcement agency that is charged with the responsibility of monitoring how much individuals contribute to electioneering campaigns.
Okay, so what's the implication of heavy spending by politicians who eventually win an election?
Well, there are several implications. One is, if they win the election, they go try to recoup how much they spent.
Seriously?
And that's what we're saying. We don't see the value that are given to their proxies, who actually is going to contracts on their behalf. We have heard stories of governors who give out contracts to their wives or their sons or their family members to carry out contracts. You don't expect those contracts to be effectively executed. Okay. So we see that the resources are not properly deployed because people have to recoup how much they've invested in the election. But when they lose the election, they are most of them going to penury.
All right, Mr. Johnson Chukwu, thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
Moving on, we bring you a Nigerian music artist who thrills music enthusiasts the national way. Tekla Wilkie has details on entertainment news.
His real name is Charles Phone, but he goes by a nickname Charlie One Man Show. He hails from Calabari in Rivers State and has been doing music for 31 years. His sojourn in music has seen him travel around Nigeria and beyond, bagging local and international awards along the way. Amazingly, he sings in different languages.
I can sing in French, in Spanish, in German, in Dutch, in Russian, Bamile case of the Cameroons, Central Africa Republic languages, the Sango, so they found it amazing.
He can also mimic any voice.
I've played with Balamila in Kaduna, in Costain Club. I've played with the Commissioner of Police in Dana, also in Marafa nightclub in Kaduna. I played with Prince Nico Mbarga in Onitsha. I played with Twin 77.
With 3 albums to his credit, Charles Phone says he's more of an advocate using his songs to correct the ills of society.
And that wraps it up on it.